Hi everyone. It's a great honor to be standing here. Before I go to speak any word here, let me introduce our video first to make you to have a clear understanding.
Our planet is crying out for a better, cleaner, renewable energy source. For the past decade, MediSun has harnessed the power of the world's oceans, starting a revolution. Where rivers meet the sea, a remarkable phenomenon occurs: blue energy. With our groundbreaking membrane technology, salt molecules naturally flow from low to high concentration, generating electricity. Through reverse electrodialysis, stacked in our regen technology, we are transforming the future of energy. Accessing an endless, sustainable, and emission-free source of power, tackling the energy crisis head-on. The blue energy revolution begins here. MediSun, created by the ocean, deciphered by science.
25 years ago, I was in a university and I wrote a global warming, which is about 5 Celsius changes. And I'm sure that you guys are very familiar with the UN. The head of the UN announced just last December. There's a no more global warming, but we are facing to the global boiling. So today, what I'm going to introduce about SGP, which is salinity gradient, the power, might help in desalination, the most critical for issues today. So SGP, basically we are using the two different concentration from the seawater and the wastewater or river mouth. So when we talk about the fresh water, it doesn't need to be the really fresh water. We can use the wastewater after process, or so we can just inject the river water. Those kind of any water which does not conclude the salt inside could be our the fresh water into our RED stacks. So in order to make a SGP, there's 3 famous technologies nowadays. The first one is the RED, reverse electrodialysis pressure, and second one is the retarded. There's a missing word. Pressure retarded osmosis, because it's pro. And the third is simply because it's a CAP mix. I'm sure that most of people is aware with the pressure retarded osmosis. And nowadays, nobody uses the because the maintenance cost is huge and the membrane technology is not mature yet. And also the applicable market is very limited. But RED, this one is very unique technology. We can apply into desalination, we can use for the power plant, we can use for the data center, we can use for the even medical industry. So this is one of the reasons why we MediSun focus on the RED technology. So people asking, hey son, once the fresh water is mixing with the salt water, does it really strong power generated? So simply, if I use the Burj Khalifa, the water potential power is dropping down from the 230 meters. I think this is pretty similar with the Armani hotels from the Burj Khalifa. Yes, that kind of a power from the RED stack inside. So what happens is, once when we inject the seawater at the middle of the plant, and the membrane allows the very specific ions into minus and plus. Simply, you can imagine like the battery. When you try to change, when you change your battery from your mouse or TV remote control, you're gonna see that always there's a plus and minus. Yes, so this is pretty similar with that concept. Left side, the natrium gonna move to the left side, the plus ions, and on the right side, the chlorine is gonna move to the minus. So it's gonna be perfect same as a battery concept. So we are seeing that the numbers of the daily power consumption and toxic brine and CO2 emissions. So worldwide, daily we consume like a 57 gigawatt to 110 gigawatt. That is huge. And also toxic brine, yesterday our one of doctor mentioned that daily we are releasing out from Middle East only 56 million tons releasing into the sea. And of course, CO2 is very much related with the power consumption. And after 7 minutes that I'm going to introduce you guys, I'm sure that it's gonna change the whole desalination market. It might be a bit cocky, but I promise that it's gonna be very, very new toys. So in the market, before I introduce the information, all this information is based on the Asia, the sea salinity, the levels. So in Asia, the salinity level is like a 3.5, but Middle East is like a 3.9 to 4%, which is like a 40,000 TDS. So please understand, the report that I'm going to introduce is based on the Asia, 35,000 TDS with 20 Celsius of the seawater temperatures. So 3.5 kilowatt per ton. So that numbers was actually introduced by the fifth desalination from the Singapore, which just opened last 2 years ago. And that number, I would say the most utilized the setup of the RO desalination plant has a 3.5. And when you see the below, this is from the UAE, Israel, and UAE, and the older systems, mostly the power consumption is like a 2.8 to 4 to 5 kilowatt. And I would say average like a 4 kilowatt per tons. But once this desalination plant, if they adopt our systems, we can reduce down the 30% average, which can be like a 2.5 kilowatt per ton. And the numbers is not a laboratory test number. This is the actual commercial version show of our R&D stacks. And the toxic brine, yes, from 3.5, once we produce the fresh water, the brine water, the salinity, like a 7.5, which is very much toxic. But after process, our systems is going to drop down 3.5, which is the same numbers as what we injected into RED systems. So in order to release the brine water nowadays, in Thailand, in Asia part, one of government, they set up like at least 20 times you need to dilute before you release out to the sea. But think about it, you generate the water like 1 million tons daily. And how can you mix 20 times? It's impossible almost, right? And Middle East, I heard that it's 7 times they dilute. But once RED stacks are involved with the existing the RO desalination plant, you don't need to do anything. After process all the RED stack process, you just release out. You don't need to add any chemical. You don't need to do any dilute with the waters. So from here is a pretty interesting part. We're not gonna just interest about the RED, which is generating electricity, reduce down the power consumption or brines, but we also doing brine mining. As you guys know, the seawater has tons of the rare minerals, lithium, magnesium, calcium, or those things is a lot of them is melted inside. But unluckily, the technology was not mature to extract these kind of minerals. But we medicine had a very specific technology which we call CCUS. I'm sure you guys are very familiar with the CCUS, carbon capture, utilize, and storage, right? So during the RO process, after they making fresh water, the brine waters, you're gonna keep in certain places, right? And we are using CCUS technology, which is we utilize the CO2, the carbon dioxide into brine water, and we take it out the magnesium carbonate. And during this process, we can extract around 8 grams of the magnesium per liter, and in the same time, we can neutralize the carbon dioxide 3 grams per liter. So if you're thinking about the million tons, it's going to be huge numbers of the magnesium you can extract. In the same time, you can almost see the carbon net zero. Because from 1 liter of the process, we can neutralize 3 grams of the carbon dioxide. But as you are aware that during the RO process, per tons, they produce around 1.6 kilograms to 1.8 kilograms. So if we divide by liters, that's gonna be like a 1.6 gram to 1.8 grams they emit into the air. So, which means during our process, we can actually make a minus carbon dioxide. So, which is a net zero, below the net zero, what do you call? Net zero, yeah, sorry. So, process, how it happens. So, this is a conventional RO desalination process. Of course, there would be a pre-treatment system, ERD, or those, the extra systems there, but I just cut it out. I focus only the RO systems here. So once we inject the 3.5, this is the salinity, which is simply you can understand 35,000 TDS. We inject into the RO, and RO system consuming all the powers to make a fresh water. And after you process the fresh water process, and then you're gonna have a brine water, which is almost double. 7 to 7.5. But our system, we adding 2 extra R&D stacks in front stage and the last stage. So once seawater comes into our R&D systems, our R&D stack gonna generate the electricity using the SGP technology. And we inject that electricity into the RO pump. At the same time, this R&D stacks gonna reduce down the salinity from the 3.5 to 2.5 because the majority of the power consumption from our system is the power pump. Power pump is the one who's spending tons of energies. So normally in the market, the RO pump consumes like 80 psi to 70 psi or sometimes 70. But after we installed the first stage, the R&D, the RO system requires only 48 psi, which means the RO pressure pump requires much less power consumption. So after RO system produces the fresh water, and then the brine water coming out, then we do CCUS technology, which is brine mining. We inject the CO2 inside the brine water, and we take it out magnesium carbonate. In the same time, which means we are consuming, we neutralize the CO2. And remaining the water comes out from the CCUS tank that we inject into our second R&D stage. And this second R&D stage also generating the electricity, and this electricity goes into our system as well later. And finally, the brine water. You don't need to do any dilute. Once finished our second stage, the R&D stacks, you can release it out without any extra work. You don't need to install the power pump. You don't need to do any chemical work. You're gonna save tons of the CapEx and OpEx from this process. So when we compare with the normal RO systems with our RED, the hybrid RO systems, the normal power consumption is like a 3.5 kilowatt, but ours average around 2.5 kilowatt. Actually, it's much lower than that, but I would like to say it's an average 2.5. So brine water, yes, our system produces tons of brine water, and you need to install the extra power pump, dilute, and pumping out. And also, same time, you need to acquire a lot of land to make a brine tank. But this one, when you finish all the process, you just release it out right away. And CO2 emission, as I mentioned earlier, the RO system, in order to make 1 tons of fresh water, they're gonna produce like a 1.6 to 1.8 kilograms per ton. But ours, as I mentioned, that we consuming the CO2 during the CCUS, the process, which is brine mining. So we are actually very close to make it carbon net zero through our new hybrid RO systems. And these systems, you don't need to worry about, should I buy this one and install at the new plant? No, you can actually put into your existing desalination plant. Because this is a pretty simple equipment, and just redesign your piping. Of course, it's gonna take some time, but if you're thinking about your long terms, which is like a 25 years or 30 years operation, it's gonna help a lot of benefits on the capital assets, or in terms of the environment protections. It's gonna be helpful for sure. And when you talk about the total unit cost of the freshwater production, I just wrote here 10%, maybe 10%, it could be maybe 15%, because as you recognize at the early stage from the brine mining, we produce the magnesium carbonate. And nowadays the market price is like $1,000 per ton. So I did not include that profit into these calculations. So that's why I wrote it that maybe 10% it is done, maybe more. So why not? You know, yesterday a lot of people and panels coming over here discuss about the four major things. The first one was power consumption, how we're gonna save and how we can reduce down. So let's think about the solar panel. You can generate only daytimes, when especially when good weather. But our system, we don't have any weather limits. You can generate 24 hours, 7 days, full year round. Right. And second, the wind turbine. Wind turbine, you also need some strong wind. What if there's no wind? You're not gonna have anything from the power plant. But ours, we generate 24 hours without any limits. So I personally want to say one thing that might be a bit out of topic. Our system could be implemented with the solar panels, which may applicable for the Tunisia, like a micro scale of the power plant, because like a Maldives and Tunisia is a lot of problem with the electricity. So they really demand on the powers on the solar or wind. And solar has a lot of issues, as you already the efficiency is going to be very sensitive with the solar panels temperatures. So solar panel temperature goes like 50 Celsius, it drops down the efficiency and the lifespan. So we also have one project that we're going to combine with the solar panel with our R&D, because our R&D system, there's two main factors. The one is, the more saltier, the more strong output power coming out. And the second is that the more hot water inject, the better output coming out. So we are using the water coming from the solar panel, which cool down all the solar panels, the temperature, the panel temperatures, and we inject into our stacks, make it better output powers. So which means that the solar panel can generate 24 hours together, and also increase the lifespan, also increase the efficiency. Thank you.